Heart to Heart Catholic Media Ministry, in association with Bellarmine Jesuit Retreat House, presents Eucharistic Encounters, Advent and Christmas reflections on the gift of the Eucharist.
Today's presenter is Peggy Arizzi. Peggy has served her entire career with Catholic Charities agencies in 4 different American dioceses. She is currently Vice President of Programs and Services with Catholic Charities USA. She is also a spiritual director, trained in the Ignatian spiritual exercises. She grew up in Wakanda, Illinois. Now let's listen to Peggy's reflection.
I remember the anticipation I felt the day of my first Holy Communion. I could hardly contain my excitement, and thanks to my dear mother, I still have my perfectly preserved white satin gloves and purse containing my first rosary and Bible. I knew even then this was an important rite of passage. Growing up Catholic, I was taught that the Eucharist is Jesus. I accepted this because I trusted the adults who taught me, but I didn't really grow to fully understand the significance of this truth until years later. As I grew up, it was easy to go through the motions at Mass, but feeling a personal connection and recognizing Jesus very much present in that piece of bread was a faith journey, filled with small aha moments and some very significant encounters that cracked open this truth and led to my meeting Jesus in a profound and intimate way. During a particularly painful time in my life, my spiritual director suggested that I begin attending daily Mass or spend time in adoration. I had no experience with adoration, so I quickly dismissed that option. While at work the next day, with much on my mind, I went back to my car to retrieve something I had forgotten. But when I got to the parking lot, I felt compelled to go inside the nearby parish to light a candle for my intentions. When I walked in, I was alone with Jesus. The chapel was set up for Eucharistic adoration, with the monstrance on the altar, adorned with fresh flowers and candles, and a large painting of the Divine Mercy Jesus in front of the lectern, with the words, "Jesus, I trust in you." What, or rather who, I walked in on took me totally off guard and took my breath away. I stopped in my tracks and I almost turned to leave when the words, "Jesus is your best friend," popped into my mind. And so I stayed, and I had a conversation with my best friend. I knelt in prayer with my eyes fixed on Jesus, and I shared what had been transpiring in my life, the losses I had experienced, my fears, my loneliness, and my deep sadness. In the stillness, I listened for his voice. In the silence of my heart, I often repeated, "Jesus, I trust in you." Mostly, I just sat quietly in Jesus' presence and imagined, no, experienced, being in the warmth of his loving embrace, sensing his compassion and love as he listened. I experienced him drying my tears and comforting me. I remember looking into Jesus' eyes and seeing his tears. A sense of consolation swept over me, and I felt a tremendous surge of peace within. There was a sense of deep intimacy and healing in that encounter, and I felt hope rising in my heart. I knew that day that I had stumbled into a new way of connecting with Jesus as my best friend. Jesus had revealed himself to me in a very personal way and has continued to do so ever since. This experience whetted my appetite for the Eucharist, for Jesus. The Eucharist became a source of nourishment and grounding in my life, and slowly, over time, my focus began to shift from me to Jesus, and only then did my understanding of the Eucharist expand beyond my personal need and relationship with Jesus. As much as it felt like it at the time, I know now that my hunger and love for the Eucharist are not just personal gifts, nor solely are they about my intimate relationship with Jesus. I have come to understand that the Eucharist draws me into service and ministry, compelling me to love others as Jesus does. The body of Christ, first placed in the manger at Bethlehem, is living bread given and broken for all the world. And from this truth flows my call to share both my brokenness and my gifts with the world. Each Eucharistic encounter fills me with strength, courage, and desire to serve not only Jesus, but also the mystical body of Christ, which encompasses all my neighbors. The story of the Good Samaritan resonates deeply with this realization. Jesus said, "Go and do likewise," encouraging us to show mercy and compassion to everyone we encounter. Similarly, at the Last Supper, Jesus broke the bread, blessed it, and shared it, saying, "Do this in memory of me." But he didn't stop there. He also washed his disciples' feet and instructed them, and now us, to do the same. These actions underscore that the Eucharist and service are inseparable. Jesus' example teaches us that our love for him must extend to acts of love and service for others. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he demonstrated that the Eucharist, his very self, is meant to be shared. This miracle of abundance calls us to look beyond our own needs and see the needs of our community. Now, many years after my first communion, in receiving the Eucharist, I'm reminded that I am part of a larger body, a body called to serve, to heal, and to bring hope. It is this sacrament that compels me to embrace my role in ministry as a veteran of many years working for Catholic Charities, to reach out to those in need and to be a vessel of Christ's love in the world. My faith journey has taught me that true intimacy with Jesus and the Eucharist propels me outward to love and serve my neighbors, living out his command to do this in memory of me.
Let's take 1 minute to think about today's Eucharistic encounter. What in this reflection resonates with your own experience of the Eucharist? What do you want to say to the Lord today? And what might the Lord be saying to you?
Thanks for listening to today's Eucharistic Encounter with Peggy Arizzi. Tune in tomorrow for a reflection by Father Michael. We encourage you to invite your family and friends to experience our Advent series by going to htoh.us/Advent. Our series continues through January 1 with a new Father Michael video each Sunday and an audio reflection each weekday by a new presenter.
From all of us here at Heart to Heart, we wish you a blessed Advent season, and may God bless your heart and the hearts of all your loved ones.